thought that I had something to talk about, so I pressed on record, and suddenly my mind feels a bit blank. I just don't know. I know that I don't know. That's the only thing that I know. But what does it truly mean to know? Is knowledge a rabbit hole? Is knowledge the unknown? Is knowledge the only foundation that you can have that keeps you connected to your original state of being? By original state of being, I mean something like your true self. You know, like you, the way you connect to yourself in the most intimate way possible. Like, maybe through a journal, maybe just in your thoughts, like you're just like, just being yourself. Honestly, none of us show that. A lot of us don't show that. But it's there. And it deserves some of your acknowledgement, because when you start to acknowledge it, it becomes a form of shadow work. And there have been a lot of things on my mind that I wanted to share on here. Basically like a progress, basically like an update on where I'm at figuring things out, which I'm sure I'm not figuring anything out. I'm most likely just discovering something that has been quite obvious this entire time. You know, when they say something is hidden in the plain sight, the truth is hidden in plain sight, as some people say. It's very complex, because it's like that one memory from your childhood that you struggle to remember properly, but you know exactly how it felt. That's the kind of complexity that I'm talking about here. And it's rich with feelings. It's abundant with feelings. Where we all truly come from, the origin, even our ancestors, like where they came from, all of us, wherever we come from, that origin, it's special. It's not hidden from us, but we hide away from it on purpose, because I've recently been studying more about Carl Jung's theory on archetypes, and it's just starting to make sense to me. Like, the whole collective essentially taught that, we must create a story, a script for us to follow, so that we can, just mingle and have some order within this chaos. Just to play around for some time. But I think this play became too serious when corruption started. And now that this whole story is corrupted, so are the archetypes. And let's just take one archetype here as an example. The archetype of a villain. The archetype of a villain, it's very typical for many stories to have a villain, like some kind of a a challenging force for the hero to, or like anyone in general, to just go through some kind of an experience that defies their own desire. And I guess that's what these people call as the villain. But now that the whole story has been corrupted, the villain has no meaning anymore. The villain's meaning is lost. Just like the hero's meaning, just like the victim's meaning, just like any fucking archetype, you know, it's kind of lost its meaning now. Because people are taking it to, like, you know, they're not understanding the lesson of each archetype. And the fact that you're actually meant to move on from that. Things are supposed to change. But this collective archetype has never changed. We're still living it. We're still, you know. But let me give you a great example. As you're growing up, your parents always tell you, or the system always tries to tell you, you must grow to become a successful person. But what does having success truly mean? That's what I'm talking about. It's a script. But true success has a different meaning for everyone. But the script says, you must be rich. Not rich with kindness, not rich with spiritual abundance, but rich with money. And that's how the child grows to abandon their inner child in order to survive, in order to live a quote-unquote comfortable lifestyle, in order to, you know, not become quote-unquote a victim of suffering. But guess what? They're still suffering. They're still suffering mentally because they have abandoned their inner child. Actually, this is something that I don't want to go that deep into right now, because I feel I've already ranted enough about this. But other than archetypes, I've also realized that if we want to change things, like, you know, in this world, we have to change the whole script. Basically, destroy the current script. You know, the way everyone thinks unconsciously, like the way people process things unconsciously, because these archetypes are stuck in our heads since generations. And it's something we have to deeply detoxify for us to be able to move on from this trauma. Because the distortion of these archetypes has caused a lot of fucking trauma. Yeah, it has to be, something new needs to be happening here, you know? Something new that has never been a part of humanity's story before. You know, something that's entirely different, entirely new. It's not a hero, it's not a villain, it's not a victim, it's none of that. It's not. It's something new, it's something better. You know? Something that cannot be distorted, no matter how much you try. It's like you're weaving a new story, but like with new kinds of words, which many people don't know about. But when they're exposed to that story, their minds will start to, you know, construct their own perception of reality in such a way that they start to build a character that's similar to that, depending on how they resonate with whatever that new archetype is. Because, I mean, that's what kind of happens. Like, you read these storybooks to, like, children, like when they're 5 or 6, bedtime stories. And it deeply affects them. It deeply affects their mental development. All these stories that you tell to children, it affects them deeply. And it really changes the way they see the world. So, what if you tell them a different kind of a story? I mean, this is just an example, but what if that happens? The world would be a newer place tomorrow. And by that I mean, the corruption will cease to exist. And something new, something better, something that's more in the flow with our true purpose will arise into action. And it will continue to get better from then on. I know I'm rambling here, but wait a second. Alright, so that's something that I really wondered about, Like, what if it was a better story than this? That really is up to your imagination. Because imagination is always in the flow, in the movement, and in the presence, within the consciousness. And it's definitely something which has helped a lot of scientists, a lot of inventors to come up with brilliant things. Even the device that you're using to listen to me right now, it's basically the product of someone's imagination. So, yeah, it really does change a lot. Another thing which I've been thinking about is, if the reality that you and I are perceiving right now is just like a simplified version of the chaos that this true reality is all about, then considering that the true reality is underneath, like below the surface level reality that we call as our reality, why did this even happen? How did this happen? Why would we choose to live in a survival mindset when we could have just been in this flow state? In this flow state where we're basically, allowing ourselves to be receptive to what this true reality is all about, and not just filter it and just keep filtering it until it's all simplified and I just see condensed matter everywhere instead of chaos. And I kept wondering about this, and a lot of examples of this occurrence came into my mind. For example, a story which I'm sure many of you are familiar with is the story of Adam and Eve. Why did Eve, the first one who ate the apple, choose fabrication of the true reality over the true reality itself? Like, why? I mean, because in true reality, we wouldn't need to survive. We don't have anything like that. there is no need for survival when you're living with the true chaos that this reality truly is. Underneath the surface, underneath this fabricated fiction. I mean, I've heard people talk about this by saying, if we start to perceive reality for the way it truly is, then we would die or some shit. Like, it would literally kill us or some shit. But how did we reach this state? It's really fascinating to think about, because isn't it already killing us? Like, I mean, I see people dying every single day because of this fabricated dream. It's not even a dream, it's a fucking nightmare, but yeah. I don't know about killing or dying or whatever the fuck. I mean, this whole fabricated idea that I'm talking about, it comes from Donald Hoffman's theory, which talks about evolution favoring the perception of reality to be, like, simplified. Because if we start perceiving reality very accurately, then perceiving it in that way would kill us. So if we start perceiving reality in a way in which it's our mind that's filling in the gaps, using its own imagination, using its own prediction ability, then that would maximize our survival and reproduction. But I think this is a very incomplete theory because it doesn't take into account for how, like, this happened in the first place. How could have this happened in the first place? And also the fact that there are many other beings who, many other species who don't actually, seem to have gone through this. Like, for example, let's talk about, first let's talk about the apple, shall we? Now the apple, did you know that the apple is actually a false fruit? Because I really think the apple that was mentioned in the Adam and Eve story was not really coincidental or like just random. I feel like it's really showing you how someone way back then chose a fabricated fiction and to perceive that fabricated fiction over the true reality. Why would that be the case? That's exactly what I'm wondering about. I mean, everything has a cause and effect, and everything is, duality. There's a lot of duality going on here. In this fabricated reality, you get novelty, you get danger, you get the potential for, being vulnerable to death. But in true reality, things are quite beyond this illusion, especially beyond this illusion of time. That's why maybe we actually perceive this fabricated reality as something which kills us, because it has time involved in it. It has order involved in it. It has linearity involved in it. But in the timelessness, beyond this void, there is no such thing as dying. That's pretty much what I've been thinking about, honestly. Well, I guess Donald Hoffman's theory also doesn't take into account for, the fact that we all have the potential to see reality the way for it truly is. Doesn't really make sense to me, honestly. But I'm not saying his theory is wrong. I think his theory is like a starting point for everyone to start really, looking beyond the surface, pulling up the rug to see what's been hidden. And I think that's beautiful, honestly. But I still don't get why we see the colors and objects and all this condensed matter the way we do. Why does the fundamental aspects of this fabricated reality really have to look the way it does in our perception? And why and how does it really enhance our evolution? Because I don't think that's happening right now. I just don't see evolution happening. It's because most people right now, they are stuck in this, they're pretty much stuck in the survival mode. They think material is all that matters. Of course it does, but matters in the sense matter does matter, but when it comes to things like beliefs, feelings, thoughts, all of these things, mindset, anything that's related to your psychological state, I don't think it really has to stay attached to the material, because the mind is beyond matter, and the mind is fundamental, not matter. But most people are stuck in this delusion that matter matters more than mind. Wait, that sounds paradoxical. No. Most people think that matter is more important, is more, valuable than mind. Basically, my life is less valuable than money, stuff like that. So that's why people are just losing their shit, and they're just killing each other. Why? Because they just want power. They want that temporary sense of satisfaction, only to figure out 45 years later that they're gonna die. It's pretty sad. I mean, time isn't moved, so people shouldn't take it that seriously, right? No, fuck no, they actually are taking it seriously. This is pathetic. I don't even know what to tell you guys anymore. The only point that I've read so far here in this thought experiment is that, or this thought alchemy is that it's like it's supposed to be a challenge for all of us. The nature of finiteness needs to be explored and known before we can remember our infinite nature again. And the reason why that's happening right now is probably because it's like this. When you're sitting still in a chaotic environment, you only perceive that environment as chaotic because you are still. Your awareness is still. You're stable. You're aligned. That's the reason why you perceive everything around you as chaos at that moment. But if you are a part of that chaos, your perspective on what's happening around you is going to be aligned in an order for you. Why? Because you're moving. You're moving in flow with the chaos. But I think what was happening in the true reality before this fabricated fiction came in is that we were just awareness, infinite awareness, just staying still and observing the chaos happening. The chaos that we truly are. We're just stillness within it. But then we decided, why not get to know ourselves better? Why not get to know this chaos within ourselves better? So maybe that's why we, started to incarnate or live through different dimensions of realities to explore, to really align with what resonates and then move on that path to remember our infinite nature again. Because this journey, it does matter regardless of how pathetic it seems right now. It's like it's really tied in with the concept of differentiation and integration. So in integration and differentiation, these guys are just two sides of the same coin. And they're interdependent on each other. They're a part of each other. It's not that they cannot be without each other. It's that it's not that one, like, it's not that integration cannot be without differentiation or the vice versa. It's the fact that they are within each other, if that makes sense. So right now we're just basically exploring the other side of the coin. Before we complete our journey and truly reunite with ourselves in a way that matters to us on all dimensions, not just the highest dimension, but even on the third dimension. I mean, that's the reason why we have incarnated within this vessel, because we are here to evolve this vessel in such a way that it can actually move things in flow and in alignment with the chaotic nature of our true selves, so that we really connect our perspectives that we have on the nature of our chaotic true self into an integrated whole, which can then move into balance and harmony, and then which can move into an alignment that allows our whole self to meet with something that's beyond ourselves. I don't know if I'm making sense here, but that's pretty much the point where I'm at. Just thought I should record this. Yeah. If that didn't make sense, then it will probably make sense later. I don't know. But yeah, I will keep moving and I'll keep figuring it out. Thank you for listening.